Hi, everyone. I'm Mariana Moscoso, pronouns ha, ella, they, and I'm the Senior Program Officer here at the California Humanities. Thank you to everyone joining us today on Instagram. Use emojis, click the heart button, keep that stream joyful. The California Humanities presents and welcomes you to the Collective Joy Project. This month, we are exploring the theme of grief as a pathway to joy. We also want to acknowledge that it is Pride Month, and as an example of grief as a pathway to joy, it's a time that we get to celebrate queer brilliance while also acknowledging that Pride was the riot against police violence. I also want to make space for folks in LA holding the grief of ongoing family separations, a legacy that echoes historic harms like the incarceration of Japanese Americans. So, through joy, we also find that it is deeply connected to grief. It is a way to practice healing, even in moments of loss. So that's what today's conversation is all about. And I'm so grateful to be in dialogue with Katherine Bahena-Benitez, they, she, multidisciplinary artist, Miranda Family Fellow alum, and playwright, performer of the solo show Jota. Katherine, welcome.
Hola, Mariana. It's so lovely to be here with everyone. Thank you so much to California Humanities. Happy Pride, everyone. I am so happy to be here in community, and this feels perfect.
Thank you again. Gracias, Catherine, for joining us today. So, before we get deep into the meat of our conversation, I am curious if you could share with us something that is bringing you joy lately.
Oh my goodness, there are so many things that are currently bringing me joy. I have so many, but I will say that my art form is bringing me so much joy right now. My poetry, my writing, I feel that that has been the place for me to really come back to my center. And so, with that being said, I would love to share a poem before we get started.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So, this is Queer Casita. Build me a house where we can exist unapologetically, a house so we can dance, sing, and vogue freely. Build me a house where the house is blessed by Palo Santo from our ancestors, straight from Mother Earth, Madre Tierra. Dale todo, dale todo. Gifts from our queer, trans, and two-spirit elders passed on from generation to generation. Let it be a reminder that our medicina will always exist. Dame una casita donde podremos existir feliz, feliz, feliz. Una casita where we are safe, safe from the hate, hate not made from us, but created as an attack towards us. Build me a house where we can sit in the comfort of our living room without the fear of being harmed. Build me a house where we can watch RuPaul's Drag Race, listen to Precious, eat popcorn, laugh, and celebrate our beautiful queer and trans existence. You see, that is a dream of mine, un sueño mío, where casita is not constricted by the dimensions of four walls, but una casita that exists beyond four walls, beyond borders, without borders, for us to exist in the world and for the world to embrace us. Let us live. Is that too much to ask for? Build me a house, a community house, the queer casita, house of the queers, where everyone is welcomed.
Yes. Oh my gosh, your poem. When I read it the first time, um, it is such an embodiment of the topic that we are discussing today of transmuting grief into joy.
Hmm. It makes me so happy to share it, honestly, and to have this conversation with everyone. This is such an important time, and I'm so grateful.
Yes, thank you. So we'll transition to our first question. Um, was there a moment in developing Queer Casita when grief shifted into creative devotion, what Octavia
Mhm.
Butler might call a powerful positive obsession from her book, The Parable of the Talents? And how did that transmutation feel in your body or practice?
Oh, wow. There's so much in this poem. There's so much that inspired me to write it. There was, of course, this deep obsession of creating work that actually illuminated what our communities experience on a daily basis. So I really love that whole quote of Octavia Butler, which was the powerful positive obsession. And Queer Casita was really inspired by the passing of Jesus Ociel Baena, who was the first openly queer and non-binary magistrate in Mexico, who unfortunately had their life taken away. And I remember just hearing the news, and I knew that their life had been taken away when they were home with their partner, sleeping, holding each other. And it fueled all these feelings of what? Like, we already experience so much harm in the world, and now we can't even love in our own bedrooms. So this kind of grief and anger and rage and confusion and pain really did inspire this poem, where I am reimagining what our future could be. And there are, of course, many queer casitas, but I want them to continue existing without any fear or harm. So it was because of something that really happened in life, and that was, the root of my obsession, I guess, in this creative practice was I must tell the truth. I must do it through art. Hmm.
Wow, that is
Mm.
really, I didn't know that about
Yeah,
your poem. And it adds like this completely new dimension to it
yeah.
because it really was a form of ritual and spell casting to undo the grief and loss of the sibling, right? That
Mm-hmm.
was in a place that our homes that we consider to be safe and caring. Yeah, thank you so much for giving that context.
Hmm.
We're talking about the home, right? La
Yeah.
casita, this place which is real and imaginative and also future building in your poem. And you have a performance, a one person show coming up. And so I wanted to ask you in Jota,
Hmm.
you let physical objects unlock memories. So there are ephemeral objects, the casita, but there's also the physical objects. Can you share one object that holds both grief and joy and what it taught you about carrying our histories forward?
Mm. Yes, there are a few objects throughout my solo show that I interact with, that I put on, that I take off, that I play with. And there is one that I really love, which is a cape that is the embodiment of Walter Mercado, who was this iconic astrologer and Puerto Rican actor. And I just put on that cape and I come to life como Walter. And that specific piece brings me so much joy, while at the same time recognizing that Walter Mercado was born in the 30s, in the 1930s, a time of silence, a time of shame, where queer identities such as Walter, and even then that's still a question, right? But it was this feeling of needing to live, survive in code, in glitter, in astrology, in different forms of storytelling, in capes of performance. And so that for me is a way of just reclaiming that while also honoring the reality of what it probably meant to live as a feminine, flamboyant, non-binary person during the 1930s, not only in Puerto Rico, but I think all over the world, even Mexico. So I feel that in that way, I'm summoning the ancestors with me, and they are present, and I could feel them. And that particular piece is what is truly like, wow, I love it. I love all of them, but that one, I'm like, in that moment, I am Walter, and Walter is with me, and we're doing this. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why this is coming up for me today a lot, but just like the conjuring of your words, the conjuring with objects. And to me, like, Walter is also icon, total icon. I also grew up with Walter on TV, and I remember asking my mom when I was little, I'm like, is Walter a man or a woman? And that question, Walter left as a question mark for everybody. And sometimes I wonder if it's because um, we hadn't like collectively formulated, at least in this current society, a language that speaks to non-binary identity. As someone who identifies as non-binary, Walter is someone that I turn to time and think about, of like that queer ancestor that was so brave and to tell their truth unapologetically, and always telling the truth with safety, right? Being aware of what violence could and did come towards him, right? Because he was exploited in his career. I was wondering if, so I love this conjuring of Walter, and I was wondering if you could also share maybe another object that unlocks memory, because I tend to think that our ancestors had a way of embedding and imbuing objects with memory. And so a lot of times in um, Maya cosmology, objects are not just objects, especially ceremonially. They're ancestors. We speak about certain forces as ancestors. So I'd like to know a little bit more of these objects that you work with.
Yes. These objects, well, in my solo show, it really is about this young girl, Mexican indigenous descent, who is embarking on a new chapter in her life. And so she is on the edge of something transformative, something revelatory, something that is going to cause a lot of shift in her life. And so she's getting ready to move. She's leaving her childhood home. And she has all these moving boxes, and in the midst of packing, all these objects come to life, and she remembers, oh, that is who I was. There's a photo album. This is how I was when I was 4, when I was 9, when I was 10, when I was 16, what it meant to be out, what it meant to not be out. And so these objects carry so much history, so much memory, so much truth in ways that even I still surprise myself because it's something that I know it's so personal to me, but it's also the realities of what it means to summon the past. I'm summoning the past. I'm revealing all these things that I was once afraid of sharing with other people, now to a whole audience. And these objects vary from capes of Walter Mercado to a pride flag to a photo album to un altar to a dresser, a mirror, and all these objects mean something. They all meant something to me. They continue to mean something to me now. And yeah, these objects are truly this opportunity of letting the world know a little bit more about me, my story, and just how much we can hold on to memory through objects. And that sometimes objects don't necessarily have to open this Pandora box, but that just happens to be the case for this character, for this story. And yeah, we enter into a different world. It becomes like this dance, this song, this ritual, this form of ceremony. And these objects are very powerful in that way.
Wow. I I
Yeah.
really love how the objects are used to transport us
Hmm.
into memory.
Hmm.
And you touched on this a little bit, and I want to like dig a little deeper here is so your work honors Mexican indigenous heritage, and I wanted to know what rituals, stories, or communal practices have guided you from loss toward healing and
Mm.
collective joy?
Wow.
Big question.
It's so great. Wow. Well, I didn't know this, but in the midst of writing my show, 2 years ago, I had to really dive into the history of mi mami and mi papi and what it meant to exist for them as an immigrant, as people of indigenous descent, and people with dreams. And in the midst of unlearning so much of what was taught as also as in Mexico, for me personally being the queer daughter, right? And truly I learned that my mommy played music. She played the guitar. She was a singer. My dad also played instruments. And for them, it was survival though. And to a certain degree, it feels like survival too, but for me, but also a form of healing and reclaiming. And so my ritual in healing has truly become about the arts. And the arts have allowed me to heal in ways that I've never thought of healing before. And I didn't even find the arts until I was in my 20s. So the first 20 years of my life, I was just surviving in other ways and healing through other ways. The art was always there, but it really did come to life in my 20s. Still now in my 20s. And it's been so, so powerful to then use art as a tool, as a vessel for transformative change, for collective healing, as a call and response with audience members of, well, what can we do after this piece is done? What are some ways that people can then be inspired to then create their own forms of art, ritual, ceremony, and healing? And when I write, it's not just writing, it is a love letter to the universe. What can I do as a writer, as a performer, to then allow what I am creating to come to life that will impact people? That is not just necessarily just to create, but there is an incentive behind there. There is a call to action. And that is just, I feel, the way that I've been able to heal is through ritual in performance art. Mhm.
Do you think that performance art is just another form of ritual?
100%. I feel like they're interchangeable. I feel like I don't know, I feel like they're the same. At least for me. I know that that's not the case for everyone, but for me, it's like when when I was first understanding the language of poetry. I was calling everything a poem. I was like, this is a poem. And then when I dove into film, I'm like, this is a movie. And then when I started writing down the testimonies of Mami and Papi, I'm like, this is a play. And I just feel that that is also a way of just the universe aligning perfectly and also allowing it to be a ritual, a sacred ceremony. I think that they go hand in hand. It's all very intentional. Nothing is by mistake, I believe. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I think this naming, and so it is, seems to
Hmm.
be a thread that I'm noticing in your work. Like you're naming a poem because that's what it is. And
Yeah.
you're naming this moving picture a movie because that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I keep feeling really called to this concept of like conjuring.
Yeah.
And I want you to maybe unpack a little bit for us another way. You know, we talked about the grief behind Casita, but what is the grief the catalyst grief that brought Jota to life?
I'm gonna start crying. I'm like, whoa. Oh my goodness. Jota is so, Jota's my baby. You know, it's my child. And Jota came to me, I feel, when I least expected it. It was in 2023. I was doing a residency in New York, and it was through all of these communal sharings with my program that I began to unveil the parts of me that I didn't even realize I had hidden for many years. And it was just, I think it was the universe telling me it's time to share this story. It's time to reveal. It's time to hold space. I feel that creator allowed me to be on this earth, to be a storyteller. So I feel like I couldn't run away from it. It was a calling. And so I had to write it. And it also came from this feeling of, well, how do I reclaim my identity? How do I live in my power, knowing that there is so much happening to our communities? Even in 2023, when I was creating this piece, there was still so much happening. And that was when I began to travel back to Mexico and do my research, understand the layers of what our Mexico has been through as well, how all of that was also learned. And it was so much grief and acceptance and also releasing of what I wanted things to be, but that things take time. And so I'm still grieving, I'm still mourning the realities of what still hasn't happened and what still needs to happen. And all my dreams that I've had that I wish would have been already to fruition now, but that I know take time, like our liberation, right? And so Jota is a piece really rooted in grief and joy and healing and a call to action. My sweet little one that is going to, I hope, change the world and will continue to change the world. Hmm.
Oh, I love that so much. I love how you pulled the past, the present, and are also calling in the future of the work. And I think on that same note, I have a question about the impact of what you hope your work will have. So when people leave the theater or even log off of this live today, what do you hope they do with the feeling of joy you cultivate? And how can it ripple back to their own communities?
Hmm. I began being a teaching artist a few years ago, and I had so much fun working with the youth and working with children that were excited about learning. And so that taught me the importance of teaching, the importance of passing the torch, of allowing people to learn at their own pace. And so with Jota, I really hope that audience members come into the space and not necessarily that I'm teaching them, but that they can learn the realities of what our communities experience. And in that way, they can pass that knowledge into the next person, into the next person. Maybe it inspires them to write a show. Maybe it inspires them to then write a poem, to then express themselves through dance, through song, that it allows them to recognize that the body is also just as part of the healing. And we feel, oh my gosh, we feel so much. And I know for me personally, I've stored memory in different parts of my body. And so this performance piece also has dance, also has movement. There is some singing, there is like moments of that because it's the full body experience. And so I hope that people just feel that full body experience and feel called to then create their own art, create their own stories, to recognize that our stories deserve to live on stage or on a piece of paper or even in a short film somehow. But that art could really be that catalyst for something greater. And I hope that that is what Jota does for people. And of course, to have a good time. Like, let's escape for a moment, for an hour and a half into another world of possibility, of reimagining. And that's what the arts offer, is an opportunity for us to go away for a little bit, an evening, and then just really experience what it means to live in the art form. And so there are many things I would love for them to take away, but I hope they can choose the some of them. Yes.
I love that answer. And I want you to know that not only have you inspired me today,
Hmm.
but I am in continuous awe of you ever since I met you I think 5 years ago now. Like I have seen a trajectory, this growth, this magic unraveling in you. And I am inspired. I've
Hmm.
been inspired. I am inspired. And I can't wait to see Jota to leave conjuring my own poetry, my own plays. That is the magic of the work that you do,
Hmm.
Catherine. So before we close out, I do want to ask you for a little favor. Do you think you can gift us, the audience, a tiny practice, maybe a breath, a gesture, anything that folks can use this week and beyond when grief surfaces?
Hmm. Yes. I have a breath that I do, and this breath I do before all of my rehearsals as well. Because in my piece, I am also entering into different worlds, different moments of life, some joyful, some not so joyful, some that are heavy. And so I always do a grounding breath for myself and for my body to prepare. Okay, it's time, right? And so I can offer that breath, which is a breath of just having your hand over your chest and then your other hand on your belly. And then you close your eyes and then you allow all of the noise from the outside world to go away. And then you take in a deep breath and then you release. And there's three breaths. But every time you inhale, you're inhaling something of prayer, of ancestors coming to join you on that day to give you strength. And then when you exhale, you are releasing all that no longer serves you. So we're going to take in another breath. Exhale. And we're going to do one more. Exhale. And then you're going to gently open your eyes, but you're going to look first at your hands, your heart, your body. And then you just say thank you to this body. Thank you for holding me, even when at times it's hard to be held. Mm. And then I just, I kind of hug myself. I kind of do a little rub. I'm like, ah. I'm like, okay, let's do this. It's time. Hmm.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was so in the moment, I forgot. I was here. I was like praying. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. Can you please let people know where they can experience Jota before we close out?
Yes, of course. So Jota is happening here in Sacramento, California, with Teatro Espejo and in partnership with the theater The Fat Elephant. And honestly, it is a beautiful space. It is near Rancho Cordova, so make sure you find time to drive there. But it is running from June 20th through June 29th. And there will be different shows that will have Q&As. We'll be able to chat, to hang out, to talk a little bit more about the arts and just hold space for each other. So, yes, I hope to see you at the theater.
Yes. And for folks joining us, just a little reminder that we will be going in a little deeper on grief as a pathway to joy at our facilitated dialogue this Thursday, June 12th at 12:30 Pacific on Zoom. So it is limited to 25 folks, and we'll have some small group activities. And the link is in our bio at the California Humanities California underscore humanities. So thank you so much, Catherine, for guiding us through this moment of deep grief. I know
Mm.
that I'm moving away from this space with so much joy, and I am inspired by your words, by the work that you're doing. And thank you to everyone who joined us. Again, please follow us on Instagram, California underscore humanities for updates. And remember, joy is a strategy. So carry it forward. See you again soon, everyone.